Imagine waking up one morning as the most powerful woman in England and sleeping the next in a cold stone cell, accused of sleeping with your own brother. This wasn't a nightmare. This was the reality for Anne Boleyn in May 1536. History remembers her as the woman who lost her head, but the truth is far more terrifying. She was the victim of a political hit job so efficient, so ruthless, and so bloody that it changed the course of history forever. Henry VIII didn't just want a divorce, he wanted a complete erasure of the woman who had promised him a son and delivered only a daughter. It has been nearly 500 years since that sword swung on Tower Green, yet the echo of that blow still rings in our ears. Why? Because Anne wasn't just a wife, she was a revolution. She was the reason England broke from Rome, the reason the map of Europe was redrawn, and the reason a king turned into a tyrant. But her greatest legacy wasn't her death, it was the revenge she got from the grave. Her blood watered the roots of the Tudor dynasty, nurturing the rise of a daughter who would become the greatest monarch England ever saw. But to understand the revenge, we have to understand the crime. How did a king who literally tore down the church to marry this woman end up signing her death warrant just 3 years later? Anne Boleyn wasn't your typical English rose. Educated in the sophisticated courts of France and Brussels, she returned to England in 1522 with a style and wit that made other women look dull. She captivated poets and heirs alike, but when the king's eye fell on her, she did the unthinkable. She said no. She refused to be a mistress, a decision that drove Henry VIII to a decade-long obsession that would burn down the old world order. Undeterred by her refusal, Henry bombarded her with love letters, professing to be stricken with the dart of love. He spent 6 years fighting the Pope, humiliating his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and declaring himself supreme head of the Church of England, all to put a ring on Anne's finger. By 1533, she was queen in all but name, a political powerhouse who had helped bring down the mighty Cardinal Wolsey. She was the architect of her own rise, playing a high-stakes Game of Thrones, where the prize was a crown and the penalty was death. They married in secret, and Anne was crowned queen. But the fairy tale had a deadline. Henry didn't just want a wife, he needed a son. And when Anne gave birth to a girl, Elizabeth, the clock started ticking. The cracks in the marriage appeared almost instantly. Henry, the man who had moved heaven and earth for Anne, began to wander. He told her to shut her eyes and endure his infidelities, a chilling reminder that he could humble her as quickly as he had raised her. The passion that had fueled a reformation turned into a toxic resentment, fueled by the one thing Anne couldn't control, her biology. Then came the final blow. In January 1536, Catherine of Aragon died. Anne, now pregnant again, miscarried a son on the day of Catherine's funeral. It was a catastrophic omen. Henry, superstitious and cruel, declared that God would give him no male heirs with this woman. He had already fallen for Jane Seymour, a meek and mild maid who was everything Anne was not. The king didn't just fall out of love. He decided that his marriage was cursed, and he needed a way out that wouldn't just end the union, but destroy the woman. The conspiracy that followed was swift and brutal. It wasn't enough to divorce Anne. She had to be monstrous so that Henry could be the victim. In April 1536, the trap was sprung. Mark Smeaton, a musician in Anne's household, was arrested and tortured until he confessed to being the queen's lover. It was a lie, born of pain, but it was enough. A domino effect of arrests followed, dragging in high-ranking courtiers like Henry Norris and even Anne's own brother, George Boleyn. The charges were grotesque: adultery, treason, and incest crimes, so shocking they were designed to ensure no one would dare defend her. Anne was taken to the Tower of London, the very place she had stayed before her coronation. Trapped and terrified, she spoke unguardedly, her nervous ramblings recorded by spies and used as evidence against her. She joked about men loving her, words that were twisted into confessions of treason. Every smile she had ever given, every conversation she had ever held, was weaponized by a court desperate to please a king who wanted her gone. On the 19th of May, 1536, the end came. Anne walked out to Tower Green, not to the axe, but to a sword, a mercy, from the king who had imported a French executioner just for the occasion. Dressed in a gray gown with a red petticoat, Anne made a short speech praising the king to protect her daughter, Elizabeth. She knelt in the straw, praying while the executioner, whom she had just paid, distracted her. With one swift blow, the fair brunette who had changed history was gone. It was a judicial murder that shocked Europe, a brutal message that no one was safe from Henry's wrath. But the story didn't end in the blood-soaked straw. Henry tried to erase her. He destroyed her portraits, removed her initials from palaces, and declared her daughter illegitimate. He wanted the world to forget Anne Boleyn ever existed, but fate has a funny way of intervening. The daughter he rejected, the useless girl he ignored, was watching, learning, and surviving. 21 years later, on the exact anniversary of her mother's execution, Elizabeth was released from her own imprisonment in the Tower. She had survived the machinations of her half-sister, Bloody Mary, and was on the path to the throne. When Elizabeth I became queen, she didn't just rule, she reigned supreme. She defeated the Spanish Armada, ushered in a golden age of art and literature, and became the most powerful monarch in English history. She wore her mother's initial A around her neck in a locket, a silent middle finger to the father who had killed her. Every victory Elizabeth won was a vindication of Anne Boleyn, proof that the witch had produced the greatest sovereign of them all. Henry killed Anne to get a son, but his son Edward died a teenager. He ignored Elizabeth because she was a girl, but she outshone every man in her line. Anne Boleyn won the long game. She may have lost her head, but she secured her legacy, proving that you can kill a queen, but you cannot kill the future she created. If you want to uncover more dark secrets of the Tudor court, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. History is full of ghosts waiting to tell their side of the story. Don't let them be forgotten. See you next time.